reset, talking all about the WoW news that happened over the weekend and everything else. Let's check this out, and then we're going to get straight into Raid.
Hello Internet, Taliesin here, and I'm supposed to be on holiday. I'm supposed to be halfway to Italy right now with my actual real-life family, but I can't because we've just had a massive 10.1.5 announcement, and I really want to talk about it with you. We knew this was coming. We've been expecting an article about in-development WoW stuff all week, which we reckoned would probably mean 10.1.5, and probably would mean we'd learn a little bit about that new mega dungeon, and we weren't wrong, but there was so much else besides, both in the article and the PTR, which went live like an hour later with all the data mining fun times in there. And Dragonflight continues to amaze, honestly, with just how much it's giving us players and how quick.
I will say, I don't think the success of Hardcore is a hit on Dragonflight. Dragonflight's been a very good expansion. I just think Hardcore is just very fun. The stakes are high, like I said, and it's fun to watch. It's exciting to watch. So people have been, people have been going where the content goes, and that's where it is right now. But the Blizzard as a team has been killing it with Dragonflight and the content releases.
Because yeah, there's a mega dungeon with some grade A 9-carat amazing lore that we've managed to pick apart from the dungeon journal, which we are going to talk all about. But there's also the long
Cat Booby, thank you for the sub. Thank you. 2 months.
Rumored
Death Knight of our
third
Scourge. What a
evoker
chance.
spec, the augmentation evoker. It's real. It's true. It's here. Which is essentially a DPS spec, but with a focus on buffing your allies to make them do more damage. An unprecedented move to add new specialization in the middle of an expansion, ballsy as hell, and testable right now on the PTR. There's new dragon racing, as always, but in Kalimdor, and it looks like on...
I mean, to me, this was the most exciting announcement of all, was the Kalimdor dragon flying.
All of your mounts that are a bit dragony, and it looks like actually everywhere, not just Kalimdor. There are Time Rift World events, which will take us to a...
I just want to bring something up real quick. Dragonriding for all Dragonriding dragon-style mounts, right? That's what's coming, right? I just wanna make a quick comment here because somebody talked about this a little while back about Dragonriding for all mounts. I don't remember exactly his name, but it may have been on this channel. Yeah, it may have been on this channel. Some guy named Samiccus mentioned this at one point. Dragonriding for old mount. What is this? Oh, there's a video here. Who's this guy? Man, I really wonder, because now that I'm flying... Who's this guy? Or whether this skin can just be overlaid on this skeleton. Right? But it'll change things. I think there's more work involved than people think. Especially if you're going to allow dragon riding on other mounts. You guys can watch the full video later. If you open up dragon... But I'm just saying...
Ridiculous
Your boy
alternate
predicted this months
dimensions.
ago.
There's new content and quality of life changes, and obviously we're going to talk about them all because otherwise I wouldn't be here right now, would I? I'd be on my way to Italy with my actual family. So let's talk everything we have discovered about patch 10.1.5 Fractures in Time. And we will start with
Oh wow, 8 of 9, huh? That's exciting.
Because I'm excited about the 10.1.5 Mega Dungeon, okay? I've talked about it in every
This Mega Dungeon is going to be very cool in terms of lore.
We have done now for weeks. In fact, last week I repeated my official prediction for the theme of the dungeon. I'm currently thinking it'll be a time travel dungeon where we go back to important parts of the Aspect's history. So there'll be a Cataclysm bit, a War of the Ancients bit with loads of Legion stuff going on. That'll be cool. Finishing up at the very beginning of their story with a big fight against Galacrond. And look, I don't want to bang on about it, right? Because I wasn't 100% correct, but I was undeniably, basically, completely correct. Because the Mega Dungeon does, in fact, feature us traveling through time to the very birth of the Aspects and Galacrond and plenty else. Information in the official article was pretty sparse, with just a few very tantalizing pictures to pore over, including Evil Chromie, Morchi, who is goth as all and we cannot help but
She's
stand
a hottie.
at
She's
big
a
massive
hottie.
Galakron with his big massive head. But through the Dungeon Journal on the PTR, we have
The
been
size
able
of
to glean
Galakron's
some
head is
more
perfect.
information.
He's supposed
and
to be
it
that
is
massive.
Very, very interesting from a gameplay and lore
I
perspective.
love the Infinite
The first
Dragonflight
half of the dungeon
look.
sees us
I hope we
entering
get
the
a skin.
Timeways. The first two bosses are essentially like guards of the Timeways, being all like, oh, get out of the Timeways, and we're like, no, we're going into the Timeways, and they're like, well, we're going to stop you, and we're like, no, you won't.
Yeah, we're gonna
Before
kill
we
him.
head back to the birth of the Incarnates.
Super excited for Spine
Or
of
should I
Galakron.
say,
Oh,
the
no.
rebirth of
Oh,
the
no.
Incarnates. One of Blizzard's press images for this dungeon, the really awesome one that you will definitely remember if you have seen it, is Galakron's massive head. But contrary to my prediction and confirmed by the
Kale
Dungeon
coming in
Journal
with a
and
sub. Thank you, Kale. 2 months. Death Knight of our
devs on
Scourge.
Twitter, is that Galakron is not
Using
a
those
boss
prime subs in
this
the right
dungeon,
spot, guys.
because
Thank
this
you. I
Galakron
appreciate it.
is dead.
Also close
As you
to
can probably
hype
tell
right
from
now,
his tongue
jeez.
sticking out of his mouth here in the internationally recognized sign for this is a dead dragon. No,
a
what's
dread-
interesting
it's a
about
dead dragon.
this
Even
is who
noticed.
else is here. It's
Iridacron. Look at the size difference. Look at the size difference. You can just see the massive scale of just Iridacron's head.
Iridacron. Obviously,
sorry,
and we'll get to
Galakron's
him
head.
later, but first we fight 3 proto-dragons in the Blight of Galakron fight. And the proto-dragons are dead dragons that Galakron has presumably eaten, because
Unreal
that's what
Blue,
he does,
thank
and
you,
then
7
presumably
months.
vommed up, because that's what
Appreciate
he does,
it.
and who were brought back by the necrotic energies dripping from the corpse of Galakron. And those 3
Hype
proto-dragons
trade kicked
are
off. Thank you, man. I
Anson,
appreciate that.
the storm-infused primal dragon, Loskaleth, the frost-infused primal dragon, and Dazak, the fire-infused primal dragon. And let's not dick around, this is obviously Razageth, Viranoth, and Firak. This is the primal incarnate origin story that we are traveling back to
Holy
here.
shit.
And that means that these 3 primal incarnates
actually pretty
are
badass.
actually undead. They were
Tundra,
killed
thank
by
you for the bits.
Galakron and then raised again, like so many others. And Iridacron being here is super interesting in this context, because I assumed when I first saw this screenshot that this was our present-day Iridacron here, gone back to, like, raise Galakron or something, and
I
we were
agree.
chasing him through time, trying to stop him.
That's
but
what I thought.
actually, I now think this is ancient Iridacron from
shit.
back then. I feel like this is the moment where he makes his dark bargain with the infinite dragonflight, maybe to bring his brother and
shit.
sisters back again. And then we fight him in the dungeon in the next battle, what will be the last fight of the first wing when it's in Mythic Plus, and defeat him, or at the very least give him a bit of a hiding, which is why present-day Iridacron is so careful, so wary of taking us.
So we beat him, and he knows this. Present day Iridacron knows. Oh my god, this is some freaking time traveling
directly,
weird shit
so
going on.
unusually aware of how powerful we, the player characters,
Kinda reminds me of
are,
the old
because
guy
he
stuff.
already fought us thousands of years ago. It also makes
Damn.
sense if this is the moment that he makes the deal with the infinite dragonflight, because the dungeon goes absolutely haywire after this. We fight an alternate tier from a timeline in
Yeah,
which
that's
he
such a
teams up with the
badass
infinites.
model.
We
Holy
fight
crap.
Morchi, the evil Chromie, and important to note, she is an alternate evil Chromie, not future infinite our Chromie. In fact, the Dungeon Journal describes Morchi as still being a bronze dragon. She's from the Chromieverse, not our future, which I'm specifically clarifying because it means Eternus could still totally be our Chromie's future infinite self. It's not important. And this fight sounds absolutely nuts.
That's from the
Morchi
quest line that we
summons
did when we
alternate
first got into
versions of
Dragonflight.
herself, and we've already seen a few of those in the questing to unlock the dungeon on the PTR, including Cowboy Chromie, Robot Chromie, Giant-sized Gromie, Tauren Chromu, and the bird-like Chromie. And she summons alternate versions
hell?
of us to join the fight too. The Time Lost Battlefield is another one that we've seen pictures of in the pressed kit, and seems to go a bit Battle for Dazara lore, changing depending on whether you are Horde or Alliance, or for mixed.
How's that going to work if it's cross-faction, though? Are they really going to make a non-cross-faction mega dungeon?
I don't know whether the leader is Horde or Alliance, I guess. With Horde groups
Yeah.
fighting an Alliance army led by Anduin Lothar, and ally groups taking on forces
What?
led by Gromash Hellscream. And the climax of the battle
That's
is
badass.
against Chrono Lord Dios in a place and time which is currently unknown to us, but where we get help from the proto-aspect allies of Alexstrasza, Nozdormu, Ysera, Malagos, and Neltharion. So yes,
Damn.
the very very, if you
All
will,
the dragon aspects come
dawn
out.
of the aspects.
Holy crap.
I liked Mechagon and Tazavesh. They were great, but this dungeon is so full of important lore characters and events that it just feels so much more meaningful and special, and I'm pretty excited, as you can tell. And at the end of it all, what? We have successfully foiled the infinite dragonflight once and for all? Is Nosdormu saved from his supposed fate? Is it all something we're able to...
If we don't get an infinite dragonflight skin out of this, I'm going to be very disappointed. I'm just being straight up. If we don't get an infinite dragonflight skin, this will be our best chance to get one. And I want one so bad. The blue cracks and the black skin, it's just perfect. I need it.
Just sweep under the rug for another expansion or two? Or should we expect
basically
to see
the same style as the mount you get
Dragonflight
from
and
time
back
walking.
with bells on later in this X-Pack? Honestly, I now have basically no clue, but I am going to really enjoy piecing together some more hints when the dungeon is testable in like 5 minutes, probably, the way things are going. There is no calm way to say this. The rumors were true. There is a third evoker spec. It is the augmentation evoker, and it's... I don't actually want to call it a support...
By the way, when I say infinite dragonflight skin, I mean something like this. This is what I want. I love the look of the infinite dragonflight dragons. I want a skin like this. Please, something like this drops in the raid, in the mega dungeon. That'd be amazing.
Spec, because I think that makes most people get kind of the wrong idea about it. Really, augmentation is the best way of putting it. I've done some testing on the PTR, and right now I would describe it as imagine Devastation Evoker, but with no DPS cooldowns, and instead abilities that boost your immediate allies, mostly in terms of DPS, and that you use alongside your DPS rotation.
I just wonder how they're going to balance these guys.
You want to be keeping 100% uptime on Ebon Might, a 30-second cooldown that for 10 seconds gives your 4 nearest allies a massive primary stat buff. Over 1,000 in my shitty 390 gear. And you can extend the duration of Ebon Might by using certain DPS abilities, including the spectacular AoE Upheaval. On top of that, you also want to main 2 Presciences, which give a crit buff and give their beneficiary a chance to repeat.
So the DPS in this new Evoker spec looks like it's really based around keeping the buffs up. As long as you're keeping the buffs up, you're doing a good job. And if the buffs drop off, then you suck, in essence. But I wonder what their own personal DPS numbers look like. Because these guys are going to become required if they're just really buffing the whole group that much.
Damage their abilities do on targets. Those are the 2 big boys, but there's also spells you can cast on allies that let them cast while moving for a bit. Lose threat, receive extra healing,
every 3 days for the next
shield,
year. Yeah,
which
basically.
does DPS when it hits, physically swap places with them, that sort of thing. And so when we say support, we often really think of something that's essentially a healer spec, but this is very much a DPS spec that does, by initial estimations, about 60% of the damage of a preservation evoker in a dungeon just by itself, but on top of that you have all of those buffs that you give to others, with Blizzard saying that they are worth.
What about the parsers? Are they feeling this? Are they pissed off about this? Because in essence you can't really parse unless you have one of these guys with you, because it's going to mess up all your parse numbers. You won't DPS as high without them. It's a weird thing. It's the first of its kind in the game.
Working on new hooks for add-on makers to make it easier for the effect of those buffs to be accurately recognized and represented in logs, which is lovely, isn't it? Isn't that nice? I'd just like to say at this point, as a discipline priest, maybe make all the damage mitigation caused by my barrier appear on logs, please. Just if it's not too much trouble, you know, while you're in there, that'd be lovely, thanks. It's kind of unlike anything the game has seen before. It's fun for sure because it's so different, but Blizz are essentially creating a new role of sorts here, and you sense it's either going to be mandatory in some way or the complete opposite, a major hindrance to good groups. There's no real in between.
And one of these guys
at this exact moment, I'm not actually sure what we would even count as a success for this spec. One being mandatory in every Mythic Plus group in place of a DPS, 1 always having a spot in a raid, 3 or 4 always having a spot in a raid. What on earth do we expect them to do in PvP? Where do we want this spec to fit in exactly?
The better they are, the more they'll be required. He's totally right.
I would really like some dev interviews to talk us through this, because I don't know, but I do love that it's happening. I love that it's getting chucked in the middle of an X-Pack. I really want it to work. I'm just at the stage where, and this sounds as weird to say as it probably does to hear, I promise you, I just trust the team with Dragonflight at the moment. If they think it's going to work, then for now, I'm happy to shut up and wait and see how it pans out. What we need is all the world first guys to try it out, really, don't we? Shame they're a bit busy with that whole race to world first thing. And also, this is now the second Dragonflight raid in a row where Blizzard's been like, oh, everyone enjoying the world first race? Great, we'll let you get on with it. Oh, but also, here's a new PTR for a new patch with a ton of pretty awesome things to talk about.
News on top of
Echo.
news.
One of the most intriguing points on Blizzard's new updated roadmap for 10.15
Dragon
is the
riding everywhere.
Kalimdor Grand Prix Dragon Riding event. With
Echo is now in the
achievements
lead,
on the
36% on
for
stocks. Damn.
16 dragon riding races around the old
I wonder
world
if it's going
continent,
to finish today.
and another 16 on the Eastern Kingdoms in the data. And obviously, this is very exciting because dragon riding is super fun, and more dragon riding races are always going to be brilliant. But also because to dragon ride around Kalimdor, you kind of need to be able to dragon ride in Kalimdor.
True.
So I guess the question is, will dragon riding be enabled in that continent permanently, or just while you're taking part in the race? And there might be some clues
It's gotta be
here.
permanent.
There are 2 flight-style spells in the data. Static flying, which is the current old...
Yeah, if it wasn't permanent, this wouldn't be a thing. If it was just a dragon racing thing, then they wouldn't worry about being able to switch between the two, because dynamic would be, you know, defaulted in when you're racing, and then it would go off.
World swim flying,
At
and
least in my head.
dynamic flying, which is what we would recognize as dragon riding. On the PTR right now, while you are in the Dragon Isles, you have the buff flight style dynamic, signaling that dragon riding is enabled there. And currently, that buff also appears when you are in Kalimdor, suggesting that possibly you will indeed be able to dragon ride there just normally whenever you're in the zone, whether you're racing or not. But
Secret polls, interesting.
that buff also appears when you are in the Eastern Kingdoms.
Ooh.
And Kultiras,
Oh,
and
shit.
Northrend, and Outland.
bring it.
In fact, anywhere where you can fly, which suggests maybe
I think it's
dragon
gonna be
riding
everywhere.
is just being enabled anywhere you can currently fly.
I'm your daddy,
in
what's up?
10.1.5. Enabled, not enforced, because this is a toggle, currently not implemented, so you can
toggle.
presumably choose between static or dynamic flying, apparently
That's right.
everywhere, including, I suppose, the Dragon Isles. And just as exciting as that, maybe even more exciting than that, there are like 100 dragon-style flying mounts in the journal which appear to be enabled for dynamic flying in the
Wow, reskinning the old dragons mounts on the new skeletons. Wow. Who predicted that? Who the hell? What handsome, sensual beast predicted that all of the skins that we currently have for dragon mounts would be reskinned onto, what so happens to be the Slither Drake, Proto Drake, what's it called? Northern Drake, or whatever the hell the normal one's called. All the Drake, I said it, all the dragon forms are covered now that we got the Slither Drake. So look at that. What do you mean? Asmon's gold, Sam? Get the hell out.
10.1.5 data, including all of your old
Sam's
drakes,
ego, right?
obviously, but also
Look at
storm drakes from Legion, pterosaur mounts from BFA, seemingly anything that shares a skeleton with our Dragonflight buddies. We're linking the whole list in a Wowhead article in the description below, of course, which is incredible, but not certain. Don't forget, what I've told you could
It's
be
certain.
exactly
I said it
how
already.
it pans out,
Don't
or
worry
it
about it.
could
Hell yes.
end up being completely different. It's the PTR. These changes could be reversed or changed or just enabled later than 10.1.5.
guys.
But with that in mind, yeah, this is very exciting indeed. As are the time rifts, one of the repeatable content forms in 10.1.5. Mr. GM data mined a list of current time rift maps, and they include what apparently
Black
are
Empire?
alternate timelines
Holy
of
crap.
Azeroth, much
Wait a minute, what? Alternate time? Scourge? There's a Scourge version? Murloc version? We saw this one during questing, which was pretty cool. Zandalar? The Warlands? What? Argus Raid, the Unseen. A Black Empire version, a Demon version, a Robot version? Damn, these sound very cool.
like the much-loved Murloc-centric Asmoloth in Leveling.
Yeah,
And
we
these
saw
maps
that one.
are entitled Argus Raid, Unused, Black Empire.
Asmorn. Holy shit, I just realized it's called, instead of Azeroth, it's called Asmorn. Like Frostmourne, you know?
Vampire,
Sounds cool.
Asroth, Demon, Azrath, Robot, Azaroth, Scourge, Asmorn,
Is there a
Titan,
nobody cares for?
Uldaroth, Murloc, oh look, it's Asmaloth again, and HVA Warlands, which seems to be a BFA style thing. You get the sense these are going to be very similar in tone.
No Shadowlands style.
awesome
Wait a
Legion.
minute. How do we not have a Shadowlands style Azeroth? What the hell? Why didn't they do? Oh, probably because, you know, they're just going to forget Shadowlands ever happened.
Events where you went to other planets
Most
controlled
likely.
by the Burning Legion, except with Spider-Verse alternate Azeroths, and that is going to be brilliant. It seems like they award a currency which can be used at a vendor to buy a whole bunch of recolored old mounts too, including the Mecha Scorpion from Siege of Orgrimmar, and there seems to be some BFA recolored armor sets attached to it as well. So basically, a huge
talked about
yes
these mounts.
from
They
me.
look great.
This is exactly what I've been hoping for ever since the Bronze Dragon
Shadowlands
questing in
win,
Dragonflight. The devs just being let off the leash to go out and have fun and get creative with alternative timelines and realities. I am really looking forward to this. And look, there is loads more, like the Whelp Creche and allied races being basically open to everyone who has
Open
a level
it up.
40 character. All
Open
other
it up.
restrictions removed, and automatically learning different levels of mount proficiency as you level, and warlocks for everyone, and customizable imps for warlocks, and map pins in the appearances tab telling you where to get uncollected looks from. It's a real patch
I
with
didn't
some
know that.
very exciting things, and it'll be here in like a couple of months probably. And look, I really have to go to Italy now. My pizza's getting cold, but I just want to say that at this point, I'm done mucking around, all right? I'm just going to say it. Dragonflight is the best World of Warcraft expansion. Just the best one. It's ridiculous. I love it. And
Those
I
are
know
some
you'll
big
be
words.
like, oh, but Tally, you can't say that. There's still half the expansion to go. And you're right. It could change. It could all go to shit. But also, it could be the week before next expansion launches and people would still be like, oh, Tally, you can't say it's the best yet. There's still a week to go. And they would also be right. But now, today, it's the
Dragonflight
best
has been good.
expansion. And with
It
the
has
rate and quality of the content, knowing that we've got 10.2 still to come this year, which is probably going to be Emerald Dream, and a whole new expansion announcement at BlizzCon in November, probably. And then however this ride is going to end in 2024,
Maybe.
man, it just feels incredible to be a WoW player right now, and it'll feel even better in Italy.
I've been enjoying
so if you
Dragonflight
liked
too.
this episode, don't thank us, thank our patrons who give their actual real-life money to make all of our work happen. And guys, seriously,
Great video.
thank you. We've got a couple of Patreon videos recorded. I just need to put them together.
Dragonflight's
and up when
definitely
we get
been
back. Thank
very
you.
fun.
If you didn't
And like I said-
downvote the shit out of it. And remember, my name is Imogen Elizabeth. Sorry, one of our patrons had a baby.
The
Let's
success
get to a shout-out
of,
on this.
what's
My
it
name
called?
is Taliesin. Leave that beautiful baby
Hardcore
alone.
WoW is not a
Comments
shot
that are
against
meant for me,
Dragonflight
from
at all.
me and Evertel
It's
and
just
everyone in Italy
hardcore
will
WoW is
be
fun
in
to
a minute.
watch. The stakes are high. That's really what it goes down to.